remember using Orkut all those years back. Now, I've got with me on the show today the same gentleman who created Orkut. Now, he is in India today to launch his new social network, Hello. From Orkut to Hello, there's so many things we want to discuss. But first and foremost, how is Hello different in such a crowded market for social media apps today, whether it's India, Europe, North America, anywhere? How is Hello different? What are you folks doing differently?
Social media has changed tremendously the past decade. We changed in fundamental ways how we interact, how we connect, and how we share. Everything has shifted from mobile and desktop. Another thing that happened was we had a generation of us using social networks for the first time, and now everyone is in multiple social networks all together. However, social networks stopped connecting us to one another, and instead of bringing happiness and connectiveness, they are bringing anxiety, depression, unhappiness, and isolation.
That is so true. So how are you doing this differently then?
And it's not a happy place anymore. And we want to turn the ship around with Hello. And when you think about Orkut.com, the best part about Orkut was its communities. Communities brought people together around topics and interests they were passionate about. And they provided a safe, comfortable place where they could share their genuine feelings. And also provided an outlet for identity. And we built Hello on communities. And when you sign up on Hello, you pick 5 things that you're most passionate about from a list of 120 passion categories, and we call those personas. So you say you are passionate about technology, Bollywood, cricket, outdoors, and movies, for instance.
But why just 5? I'm really curious, because I tried downloading the app and using it. It didn't allow me to select more than 5 different categories. Why just 5 about a single? I mean, I'm sure a single person has a lot of other capabilities, likes, dislikes. Why just 5?
So if you pick only 5 things, you end up with things that really matter and you're passionate about. And those things, 5 things change over time. In high school, you might be a beer lover, athlete, and into comic books. But when you graduate, maybe you get a dog, you become a dog lover. Maybe you become interested in art. Maybe you're single and you're a bachelor. So with Hello, you can change those 5 personas at any time, and then we customize entire experience around it. And you know, you could say you're a movie fan, but if you don't watch movies often, then you don't have much to share and talk about. So that's probably not one of the personas you should pick. Everyone loves cats, but if you don't actually own a cat, you know, that's not a big part of your life or hobby. And by focusing on 5 things, you're able to generate a feed that's based on not just your friends and followers, but also your interests.
So how do you monetize this? How is your monetization going to be different from any other social media? So here you will again have details of, say, 30, 40, 50,000, so many people here across the world, whichever country this is going to be launched on. So how will you monetize this platform?
One of the major issues with monetization is social networks get usage data, what you look at, what you click on, what you read, who you message, to figure out what you're interested in, and then they try to target ads. And oftentimes those ads are not useful. And then they can be very intrusive when they start following you all around the internet with cookies, for instance.
Exactly.
On Hello, we ask you 5 things you're most passionate about, so we are able to target advertising that's just for you. And if you think about brands and companies, they have a big part in our lives, and there's so much feeling of love and loyalty towards brands. And if you're a fashion enthusiast, you'd love to see ads about fashion. If you're a foodie, you'd love to see ads around food.
Interesting.
And that way we are able to target users directly because they explicitly tell us what you're interested in.
So tell me something. I mean, fair enough, you were upfront about the fact that there will be ads. I mean, lot of organizations are upfront about the fact of this is how we're utilizing your data. You know where I'm going with this. Now you saw that.
But we'll do differently. We'll make sure that the ads are beneficial and enhance the user experience, because social networks.
How do you do that? Give me an example. Say for example, let's take an example. Let's take a hypothetical situation. Say we both like a particular variety of particular kind of shoes. Say we both like Brooks, for example. So what kind of ads do you throw on it right now?
So if you are into running, right, And if Adidas have a new like running shoe that comes out, they could provide an ad, and they could say we are giving like a 20% discount for Hello users, and that's something you would be interested in, and that's something you would like click on and use. And with advertisers, we want to make sure that they have a benefit they provide to the user when they're advertising.
Okay. So tell me another thing. We'll just stick to this point for a while. You know, if you say today when I install Hello, I mean, which I did right now, how do you responsibly reach out to so many users who are going to come on your platform and say, A, this is the type of data I'm going to take in from you. This is the 4, 5, 6, 7 types of data sets that I'm collecting about you, and this is how your data sets are going to be used for ads or anything. How do you explain that to the audience? Because the problem with social media right now is they have social media platform, but there is no transparency in which the message goes out. So how do you do that, sir?
So there are two types of data. One is profile data that you give out willingly. For instance, some of the data might be private, your phone number, email address, and then there's like data you post publicly on your profile, which could be like tweets or Instagram photos or Facebook posts. And everyone has access to them. The major problem comes from when social networks have usage data. They know what you're looking at, they know what you're clicking at, they know even like the conversations you have with other people. And when they start using that data and sharing it with third parties, there becomes a huge privacy concern. And that's why the community has stopped like having faith and trust in social networks, because they have not been transparent about how they use their data and who they share it with. And they try to hide behind privacy policies in terms of service, but those things are like black boxes and no one actually like reads them. So it's a social networks or media services responsibility to educate the user about how they're using the data and what they're doing with it. And also,
how are you doing that to a user? How are you doing this if I'm the user? How are you putting it in an app separately, pop up as a message or an email, and they download the app for the first time? You know, this is how we're going to use your data.
We don't share user data at all, and we don't have something like a unified login with other services. So whatever you do on Hello stays with Hello. It doesn't track you the rest of the internet. And the usage data we have, we just use it to make your feed better. And your feed is your feed. No one else sees what's on your feed. But we want to make sure that we provide the best content, which is creative, which is expressive, which is authentic, and which uses signals like what you're interested in, or where you're located, or what's like popular and upcoming.
So you know where I'm going with this. I mean, so for example, let's take another situation. Just want to understand this paradigm a little bit. Well, because see, the thing is, it's very easy to blame game somebody, blame game a platform. You know, this organization took my data away. There was data theft, which I think is wrong. It's a little harakiri. You shouldn't be talking like this. The way, see, as a user, there are a lot of users, the millions of users across the world for so many years. Nobody had the patience to read the terms and conditions before installing an app, and then after 2 years, if some data theft happens, then they started blaming a particular platform online. This has happened, that has happened, this is bad. So another thing is, how do you, in a day and age like 2018, where slowly, you have a set of 2-3 more million people in India who will use, smartphones for the first time. Data prices are so cheap in the country. Now, for them, or for a first-time user like them, how will they understand the terms and conditions? How do you make simple things like terms and conditions for social networks easier for people to understand, so that they get through
So there are two issues. Like one is with social networks, and the other one is the way people use social networks. But the way you design and architect a social network affects how people use it. So the companies are on the hook for both. And what's the problem with current social media companies is they prioritize advertisers, brands, third parties, shareholders. They don't prioritize the users, and users are the champions, and that's what social network is all about. It's all about the user, and they're not putting their users first. And as a result, we are ending up with all these issues around data privacy or fake news and so on. And it's the company's responsibility to be transparent, and if they're going to share the user data, that's fine, but are they explicitly asking their content? Are they saying they're going to share your data with company X? Do you approve? They don't ask, and they know that users are not reading the terms of service, and they're just trying to maximize engagement, clicks, or companies and their revenue. And what you also see on social media platforms is a lot of fake accounts and bots, and they create so much engagement, and they really like enhance the number of minutes spent on the servers. And social media sites, they don't care about it because it makes them look good. But then you end up with like a really bad experience as a user.
So how do you solve that at Hello also? How do you remove fake profiles and bots if there are? I'm sure they're going to be. It's very, it's easy to create.
That's an amazing question. So we have what we call like human-focused design that takes into account a lot of like reputation systems. And we architected the system around what we call karma. And every user has a karma on the system, and every community has a karma. And as a user service, you interact with other people and content around it, and the content can be like positive or negative. Then we look at your karma and reputation to figure out how much we should distribute your content. And as a result, a newcomer can't just pay money to make sure that their content gets like distributed, because they wouldn't be able to, they don't have a reputation. And that's exactly what happens in real life. If you meet someone the first time, you're not going to believe what they say, but if you spend more time with them, from acquaintance you become a friend, a close friend, and then you will trust everything they say. And social networks should also be based on reputation and karma, where if you provide great content, if you're a kind, nice person, if your interactions are great, then you should be lifted up. And we have a lot of ways where we promote users that are like beneficial to the community.
Are these like influencers that you're planning to say? These are influencers on the community. That's what you're saying? You'll promote them?
It could be any user. It doesn't have to be an influencer or celebrity.
Okay, it can be any user. So on what basis do you promote such users then on your platform?
We look at what you post and also how people interact on what you're posting. And one of the interesting things we have is there's a lot of social pressure when you post content online today, because we want to make sure who is hearting it. Oh, my friend didn't heart this, but hearted the other one. And on Hello, when someone hearts your content, you don't know who that person is. As a result, there's no social pressure. So you might get like 20 hearts or 100 hearts, and it's a signal for us around content quality. And if you put out content out there that has high quality, it's going to increase your reputation.
So to that point, do you have physical content moderators, or will you have a machine learning algorithm scrape through the information that is on your site? Why I ask you this is a model of scale. You will grow. So many users will come to your platform. But having said that, the moment you have scale, you have numbers, you have these bots and these kind of fake profiles, people trying to take the narrative in a wrong way, do some other direction. So who will moderate the content over there? Are these physical moderators, or will you have machine learning algorithms scrape through data?
So there are three ways of doing it, right? You can have like algorithms that take into account machine learning and AI. You can have the users of the service itself moderating, and you could have a customer support. And the best solution is a combination of like all three. So we use like smart, ingenious algorithms to figure out what's happening in the community and on the content and data. Then we have users who have the necessary tools to flag content. For instance, if it's like a copyright violation, they can detect it easily. And then on top of that, we have like customer support who can take the final decision on removing content or accounts.
Interesting. So one more question on that before we move on.
Then
how, since these are algorithms which will scrape through data, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad and the ugly, how do you remove biases then? How do you remove biases from algorithm?
That's a very valid question. That's why reputation is so important, because if, let's say, you're a user who likes to moderate, and if you've been moderating very successfully, and if someone who's at like a customer support level vouches for you, then if you decide to remove a content, there would be like a valid, because you already have the reputation. But someone who just joins the network, or who hasn't been around for too long, or who hasn't contributed to the community, won't be powerful when they're in the network.
Interesting. So couple of last things on
Sure.
this platform of yours before we move ahead. It's an India-specific question. Now, if you look at the demography over here, now there's a big push in the last 2 years to do regional apps, regional social media platforms, regional operating systems. There's a lot of push towards that. So, how would you want to target a regional audience in India? Because there is still only a certain percentage of the population and a very minimal percentage of the population which speaks English in this country. The rest still speak in their regional languages, be it Marathi, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu. There's so many languages. How do you reach out to the next billion who are sitting out there with this social media platform?
We start off with English in India,
Sure.
and then we're going to add more languages. We're going to add like Hindi and Kannada.
Kannada. That's
Yeah.
the local language over
The
here.
local
Correct.
language.
Correct.
And natural language processing is so advanced right now, and there are so many tools out there. They can do instant translation. So our mission is to connect people together globally, even if they are part of different cultures or they speak different languages. And technology in our current age allows us to do translation. Right?
Absolutely. So, the entire thing in social media, we said some really interesting words at the beginning of the interview when you mentioned these words like how social media has created, an environment where people are insecure, unhappy. You mentioned right now how people think 10 times before they upload something or they write something
Right.
on social media. It might seem very normal, but that says a lot about the psyche of people today, the way they have been using social media. So, do you completely believe in the fact that social media has created a society which is insecure, unhappy and disconnected?
I would say social media since Orkut, because Orkut was such
Yes.
a loving
Oh, yes.
community that
Absolutely.
brought people together. And when people think about Orkut, they have so many fun memories. But social media since then has been a huge influence on issues with like body image, unhappiness,
absolutely.
depression, anxiety.
Absolutely.
And there's
Absolutely.
always like research that validates it. In the past 5 to 7 years, anxiety, depression went up 33% among teenagers.
Yes. it did.
75% of
Correct.
teenagers have mobile phones in the US. Even teenage suicides went up 23%. And it's all tied up to social media usage. And with Hello, we bring the old good traditional values back to online social networking. Friends matter, family matters, community matters, togetherness, love, empathy, kindness, they all matter. And people stop being kind to each other on social, and they stopped being authentic and genuine.
That's so true.
You look at like
That's
your
so true.
feed, and it's your friends posting things that are a part of their highlight reel, their fake moments. They're always traveling more places than you do. They
Absolutely.
always are eating fancier foods. They always have like
Absolutely.
more friends, and you constantly feel like you can never do enough. You can never be enough. Like you don't belong there, and it's just awful because social networks should make us happier
Correct.
and connect us and unite us.
Correct.
And I believe with all my heart that social networks can bring people closer together and not be an obstacle. Social networks should serve people.
So you have a big job at hand. I mean, after 10-15 years of launching Orkut, you're trying to redo what social network actually means to the world. What you thought social
And we are already doing it. Hello. When we talk to our users, we ask them, what is it about Hello you like? And they constantly tell us three things. They say, I'm creating authentic connections with people I haven't met around things that I'm passionate about. They say they have a lot of fun using Hello. And they say it's a welcoming, happy place where they can express themselves. And most users, when they use social media, they're not happy. There's all this research done on time well spent, and the services that make people the unhappiest are social media and dating apps.
Absolutely.
And we're turning that tide around.
Absolutely. So, a couple of last questions. Let's take a step back. When you created Orkut, right? Your entire journey in that point of time. Do you think Orkut lost out to Facebook? Is that correct of me to say? Second, are you happy today with the fact that Orkut achieved what it planned to do initially?
Orkut was an amazing journey.
Oh.
It had over 300 million users, and it made the world a better place by bringing us closer together.
Facebook literally took 5 years to get that many number of users.
However, Orkut was built for a different generation at a different era, and the landscape has changed tremendously. I had already left Google when Google made a decision to shut it down. And it was a sad moment for all of us, and it was also a sad moment for me.
I'm sure.
But that's why I'm doing Hello. I see Hello as a spiritual successor of Orkut.com.
Wow, I like the way you say spiritual success.
And we are able to start with a clean state and create social the way it should be for the generation, for the current era, in a way that amplifies all the things that made Orkut great.
So tell me something. So why did Orkut close down at that point of time? What went it? I mean, I don't want to get into details, but was that the correct decision, you still think? Because it was growing, There's nothing which could stop. I mean, it grew, beyond America, beyond North America, it grew in countries like India. Everybody was using Orkut at that point of time. So what made you folks stop Orkut?
So I had already left the team, and I had already left Google when Google made a decision to shut down Orkut. So I was not involved in any way with that decision. And it was a great journey, and we're continuing that journey with Hello.com. So I see it as a continuation.
Okay, like a couple of last things. When Orkut was released, I remember that point of time. I mean, you scaled it to, initially you was using Microsoft technologies and tools, and then you wanted to switch to SQL. And this transition happened for a year's time. Did that have any kind of an effect on the future, ramifications for your platform those days?
It did, and I was the only person who actually worked on Orkut. I wrote all the code, I designed it, I set up the database servers. I used C#, Microsoft SQL Server, .NET, Windows servers. I even went to data center and set up the computers myself.
Nice.
It was literally a one-person project. And when we were ready to launch at Google, Eric Schmidt and like Marissa Meyer said, why don't we just name it Orkut? It's a 5-letter word, you're an only person who worked on it, and you have the domain. So we launched it as Orkut.com. But we didn't anticipate the insane popularity and demand we would be getting. We reached like millions of users right away. And I had architected the system to be sufficient for like 300,000, but we hit 300,000 instantly.
Wow.
So we ended up rewriting everything with C++, Java, MySQL, and it almost took like a year. And through that time, we lost some users, but then we gained users in other territories like India and Brazil. So it was very interesting to see the effects of our scalability and infrastructure issues.
One last question. Why India with your new platform? Why so gung-ho about India? What's there in India for a new social media platform?
So there are two main reasons. One is India had such a loving community on Orkut.com, and we love to bring that tradition back and continue our journey here in India. And the other part is the people of India themselves. They are so genuine, they are so welcoming, they have such a down-to-earth quality to them, and they are very passionate. They're very passionate about many things in life, and also they are early adopters. They love new technologies, and Hello is all about communities, and Hello fits perfectly with the culture and the connectedness of the people of India.
And you'll do more with it, since you're planning to also to go regional a little bit, with a little bit of regional languages also over here, right?
Definitely, we are going to translate to Indian
that's
languages.
where the next billion is, in terms of
exactly.
There'll be the next billion people who will use smartphones and internet for the first time.
And we are also going to have a web version, but we're taking it like one step at a time.
But this is just the app only version. Where all have you launched so far?
So we launched in Brazil a little over a year ago.
Again, a great market, which used to be a brilliant market for Orkut all those years back.
So we launched in Brazil first because it has a smaller mobile market. Like the number of like mobile users in India are like 10 times as many.
Correct.
And we were able to iterate, add features, enhance it, do a beta test in India, and make the app perfectly ready for the market here. And that's why it took us a year to come to India.
Also, one thing that just comes to my mind, you talked about going to Brazil and India. Now, there is a lot of clamor in the government, a lot of talk on keeping data related to Indians within the boundaries of the country. There's a little talk of GDPR here also, because there was a data privacy consultation paper which was rolled out last December. Now, how will you tackle that if tomorrow there is a regulation which suddenly, and say you have scaled to a certain number, and by the end of next year, if there are regulations out which asks you, boss, put all your data related to Indian citizens inside India, whether it's financial data, social media, anything. How do you tackle a situation like that?
We have to comply with government regulations, right, in order to operate in the country. So there isn't much to do there. However, you know, it's all about the user, and you want to make sure that the people in any country have the best experience. So you could think that, you know, if we have 30 million users in India, we want to make sure that they have like the fastest experience. So it might make sense to have some of the data stored in data centers in India instead of US, so it doesn't have to travel all the way here.
Correct, absolutely lovely. Orkut, it was lovely talking to you.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.